Welcome to Sync Up, a show about OneDrive, the intelligent files app for Microsoft 365. We are your hosts, Ankita and Jason Moore. I'm Ankita Kirti, Product Manager on the OneDrive team.
And I'm Jason Moore, Group Program Manager for OneDrive. This show will take you behind the scenes of OneDrive, shedding light on how OneDrive connects you to all of your files in Microsoft 365 so you can share and work together from anywhere while protecting your work from accidental loss and malicious attacks.
Today, we are excited to have on this show Sesha Mani to talk about data governance and compliance in OneDrive.
So don't go away. We've got a great show for you today.
Woohoo! So last month, we spoke about how OneDrive helps users stay productive with secure external sharing and collaboration while giving admins the tools to manage and monitor content and protect confidential information. And we also promised you that this month we will be covering data governance and compliance. And we understand that the worries around exposure of sensitive content are heightened by the current business climate, which is seeing more people work outside of the protective confines of their company's network. And we want to ensure that Microsoft is committed to helping you protect your company's most critical data as this business world changes right in front of your eyes. And for content stored in Microsoft Cloud, that commitment starts with OneDrive. So today we are going to discuss how Microsoft 365 and OneDrive helps keep your data secure and private, and at the same time reduces the stress on IT during any compliance or litigation issues. Jason, would you like to introduce the guest, please?
Our guest today is Sesha Mani. Sesha is a Group Program Manager at Microsoft responsible for core parts of OneDrive and SharePoint around data governance, compliance, and security. He spearheaded our security efforts in the Microsoft 365 service since its early inception. So Sesha has a ton of experience on all of this. So Sesha, welcome. So glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me here, Jason and Ankita. I'm excited to share about our journey in the compliance and governance.
So today's session, we'll begin with discussing best practices for governing organizational data. Microsoft 365 and OneDrive, as I mentioned, together gives admins a robust tool set for combating ransomware, retaining critical data, and meeting litigation requirements. Sesha, can you throw some light on the various policies admins can implement to manage this intellectual property?
Yes, absolutely, Ankita. There are several policies that we have to help you manage the intellectual property. I'll start with the retention policies. These help you to meet your compliance regulations such that I want to retain certain data for 7 years or 10 years. And then after that period, perhaps you want to dispose those data. So you can configure those retention policies in our Microsoft 365 Compliance Center and pointing out or targeting the specific OneDrive users. The second one I would call out is around e-discovery. This is primarily for litigation scenarios. So if you have to prove to your investigators that what a given user has been doing in a specific project or a specific code-named pharmaceutical scenarios, then you will be able to create e-discovery cases and search across all your enterprise digital data and gain the evidence to be able to give it back to the investigators. And not only that, to take it one step further, even in the cases of ransomware attacks that happens in your enterprises, we are here to help you with our files restore capability. So for example, imagine that your Windows devices got stuck with the ransomware attack and you are syncing files to your OneDrive folder that got corrupted with ransomware. Now those files gets uploaded to the SharePoint and OneDrive services, and we have this capability. We will automatically detect that the files are now corrupted and notify the user saying, looks like you have ransomware attacked in your devices. Would you like to restore to the previous good version of the files in OneDrive? Now, this is the integration that we have done with the Windows Defender such that Windows Defender cleans up your local device and then informs the OneDrive service, and the OneDrive service being able to tell the user to take actions to restore to the good versions of the file. So those are the three major policies. Just to recap: retention policy, e-discovery, and ransomware that I would call out as a key scenarios in this to manage your intellectual property.
So, Sesha, I have a follow-up question for clarity to our listeners. What's the difference between e-discovery and our offering advanced e-discovery?
Yes, a great question, Ankita. So with the advanced e-discovery, compared to the normal generic e-discovery, the big difference is with the advanced e-discovery, we have done a ton of integration with machine learning capabilities, as well as the predictive coding and test analytics. And what it helps you to identify precisely the content that is matching those search results so that your response to your investigators is also much more precise versus in the regular e-discovery cases, perhaps it's not that precise, but the results are still there, but it might be much more broader. So that's the big differences. And this is one of our key features, advanced e-discovery, especially in the compliance space.
And a big differentiator also in the industry in general.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And before Jason asks his question, I have one more follow-up. Can you tell us a little more about, you spoke about data retention. I just want to know a little more about retention labels in the specifics around retention labels.
So as a compliance admin, you can configure retention labels in your compliance center. And when you configure them, you can say, I'm going to now target these labels for, let's say, Jason, Sesha, and Ankita's OneDrives. So you can even target to a specific locations. And by virtue of doing that, when Sesha goes to his OneDrive, I can now see that the labels are available for me in the file, and I can apply a specific retention label. So that's a publishing aspect of it. At the same time, you can also do automatic retention label application to the files as well, which is you can now configure rules such that if the file contains certain metadata, then apply the 7-year retention to that file automatically. So you can do that automatic retention label application as well. And this is the area we are continue to innovate more in the future as well. And I hope that clarifies the question clarifies aspects around retention label.
Absolutely. That was great. I'm glad you were able to dig into that, Ankita, with Sesha here. I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about those policies that you asked in the original question, kind of assuming that I get those policies applied, the data retention, e-discovery, et cetera. How do I, like as an administrator, how do I actually go and get insights on how that data is being used and leveraged so that I'm able to actually be productive and be more efficient at my job as an administrator of the organization?
This is a great question, Jason. This is where the insights and the data content explorer comes into play. So, for example, we have the capability called Office 365 audit logs, which is every activity that happens in your enterprise. We have them captured in our audit logs. So as a compliance admin, you can go and view for a given user which users that he has shared a file with, or what kind of files that they have uploaded to their OneDrives, how they have they deleted files from their OneDrive. So all the files activities are captured in the Office 365 audit logs. Not only it's available in your UX admin experience, but also using our API programmatic interface, you can capture those in your own tool and then do all sort of insights yourself as well. So we provide you a programmatic interface to get these detailed audit logs and then do further analysis as your organization needs with those audit logs as well. And second thing I want to call out is based on these audit, you can also set alerts. So for example, if Jason, for whatever reason, deletes 100 files from his OneDrive, then you want to get an alert from as an administrator, right? So you can probably create alerts like such that as well. So it gives you a much more as a workflow nature to this audit log and activities that happens in your tenant as well.
Awesome. So I love that. I love that. It's pairing of the auditing and reporting where I can get that insights through those tools and be able to actually go find and understand those with the alerting so that I don't have to go always be proactive. I can go and say, oh, this is a condition. For example, Jason deleted his files again. I understand why you'd say that. Guilty as charged. And that actually saves me a lot of time. So I think that's a really powerful way to be able to leverage those policies in place. Ankita?
It's a well-known fact that as Microsoft, we take our responsibility as a custodian of customer content very seriously. But at the same time, we have implemented a series of protocols that lets you as a customer also maintain control over your own data in OneDrive. So, Sesha, my next question is around these protocols. If you can share more details as to what our innovations are in this sphere.
Absolutely, I'll be happy to. There are actually two main capabilities that I would call out in this particular aspect of data visibility and control to Microsoft. First of all, as you just pointed out, Ankita, Microsoft is a data custodian. You, as an organization, as a customer, you own the data. And to take that even one step further, we have a capability called customer logbox. So what it allows you to do is once you have subscribed to this feature, if at all there is a reason we need to mitigate or troubleshoot something in your enterprise tenant, then we would submit a request to you saying, customer, would you approve this request because we need to go and take a look of this particular issue in your Office 365 tenant. Only after you approve, then only we will go and take a look at it. And even that, you can approve it for, let's say, 3 hours or 5 hours. You will be able to select how much time you want to give us to go and take a look at it. And during that time, whatever troubleshooting activity we do, all those things are logged as well, so that you know exactly what kind of actions that we are taking in order to troubleshoot that particular issue. So that way, you as a customer has a full control over your data, and you know exactly when, as a Microsoft engineer, goes and has to troubleshoot a specific issue in your enterprise tenant. The second one I would call out is the customer key feature. As you know, Microsoft runs on trust. All our data, both in transit as well as at rest, they are encrypted. That means we are using the encryption key in order to encrypt all your data. Now we are taking that one step further in actually allowing you to give us what encryption key you want us to use as the root of this whole encryption. And this is what the feature is called customer key. So since you own the key, you can upload it to our Azure Key Vault. And from there, Office 365 will use it to do the rest of the encryption. What it means is also, if you go and revoke the key, guess what happens? No access is given to nobody in Microsoft for that whole data itself. So you control the complete encryption as well as the access aspects of your whole data. So that's the beautiful nature of this feature, customer key. And many, many customers, especially highly regulated customers and finance customers, love this feature.
To the last point of customer logbox being used by a lot of highly regulated customers, I would like to point out that it also provides controls for adhering to regulations like HIPAA and FedRAMP, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, there are several compliance certifications that you can use these features to be able to achieve those compliances. You mentioned FedRAMP and HIPAA in the healthcare. In the finance side is SEC, FINRA, and then PCI is the other one, and then also the EU model clauses as well. And most recently, as you all know, GDPR in European Union has become one of the biggest compliance requirement. And we, with the tools we have built within the OneDrive and SharePoint services, you can now use those tools to meet your GDPR needs as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to know that you can easily, with Microsoft 365, be in control of those pieces, as you talked about with the customer lockbox, customer key, and in particular, that enables you to meet those obligations, because different businesses are going to have different needs and requirements across that. If you don't have one of those needs, great. Maybe that's something you don't have to worry about. But if you do, there is nothing that you won't do to make sure that you're able to meet that compliance and meet your obligations on that. And it's awesome that just out of the box, you're able to go and do that with the service. So I'm really excited about that. I think that's awesome to give customers that kind of control across those pieces. That said, I actually kind of wanted to talk about one of my favorite features. We've talked about this for years because you worked on making this happen for so long. And that's the Microsoft 365 multi-geo work. For folks who don't know what this is, essentially, when you need a global presence, that you as an organization have data residency requirements that exist all around the world, or even in more than just one territorial location, multi-geo enables you to have the control on an individual level there with your OneDrive, and of course on a site level with SharePoint. And so that's actually incredibly powerful for folks that have that. And I thought you might be able to kind of walk us through a more nuanced version of exactly what that enables people to do and why it's so useful.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I would love to share the story there because, as you know, that's one of the, I would say, complex engineering at the same time, very challenging and rewarding feature as well for us. Many countries, regional and both in global, geo-specific countries as well as regional level, data residency is one of the key regulatory control and compliance regulations that they need to meet. So, for example, a multinational company, they have offices in Australia, and perhaps Australia has a local country regulation that says Australia's citizens' data must reside within the Australian soil. With those regulations, Office 365 is actually growing the data center's footprint across all the geos in the globe. So far, I would say roughly about 20 plus data centers across the globe that we have this will continue to increase. Now, with multi-geo, as a single organization, a multinational organization, you can now expand the footprint of your data across the globe wherever the Office 365 data centers are available. So in the example that I showed you, you can imagine a company that is headquartered in US can now also have a location in Australia as a satellite location. But the beautiful point is you meet your compliance needs here because the data resides in Australia. But from the end user experience point of view, it's seamless for them to be able to collaborate an Australian employee with a user in the US and vice versa. So in other words, from an end user perspective, they just don't know it is a multi-geo, complicated setup and so on. They just come to OneDrive and love that experience. And they can see, more importantly, all their colleagues across the globe, no matter where they are working from. Similarly, they can access the data wherever it resides. If the US colleague shares a file in OneDrive with the Australian colleague, Australian user can just get access to it, both from their sync client as well as from the web browser experience as well, for example. So that's how, both from a compliance perspective, you meet your data residency, and from a user experience perspective, you give the end users, all your end users, not just your headquarters users, the same modern productivity experience as well.
Yeah, I love you've hit on such a great point with it, like this notion that you get to take advantage of all of the compliance and regulatory requirements without impacting the user experience, without people, having to do something special to share files with a colleague that's in a different territory there, whose data is in a different residency state. That is really, really powerful with this feature. And I remember, even rolling it out at Microsoft, where we've got everybody using every kind of endpoint all over the place, how seamless that was as part of it. So it's really exciting to hear kind of about that process, especially, given the efforts gone into making that as smooth as possible for customers.
So finally, last question, Sesha, we did speak about it sometime back about the different compliance offerings that can be leveraged through customer logbox. And Microsoft does offer a comprehensive set of compliance certifications to help organizations comply with national, regional, and industry-specific requirements governing the collection and use of data. Can you briefly talk about some of these compliance certifications and what we are doing in this space?
Yeah, absolutely, Ankita. Compliance is continued to evolve. And at the same time, there are existing compliances such as FINRA, which is applicable for highly regulated industries like finance. And there are very similar strict compliances in other industries like energy and government agencies as well. But the fundamental premise of those compliance regulations are, how do I control the insider trading that could happen with my organization? So let me give you a concrete example. So imagine a finance FinServ company where they have investment bankers who are helping individuals like Jason, me, and you to tell you which shares to go and buy and make profit. Whereas there's another department, which is corporate advisory. They actually advise big organizations like Microsoft to say which company they should go and acquire, for example, and the financial status of the other company and so on. And as you can imagine, there is now a conflict of interest between these two users. If the corporate advisor comes to know that Microsoft is in talks to acquire LinkedIn, they can leak that information to these investment bankers, and the bankers can now use that to help their clients. This is what they mean by insider trading. And SEC requires that these finance companies, prove to them there are controls in place to block these insider trading. And that's exactly where our information barrier scenario comes into play. So you can configure your information barrier policy such that there are users belonging to investment bankers and there are users belonging to corporate advisors. And you can say, do not allow any collaboration and communication between these two departmental users. What that means is if Jason belongs to investment banker, he tries to share his file from his OneDrive to Sesha, who happens to be a corporate advisor. Guess what? He can't even see him and then share a file with him. Same thing for Sesha as well.
And that works across all of the M365 services, right? So I couldn't email you an attachment. I couldn't, like, it's complete and consistent across my experience.
Absolutely. So any sharing experience in Teams, if I try to chat with Jason, or in email when I try to attach a file and send a mail to him, so it works across the M365 services experiences. And this is a marquee feature that is actually in private preview right now. And very soon, in the next month or so, it will also become generally available as well. Thanks for the opportunity to actually mention that in this podcast.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I like, it's such a killer thing. And I think you did a great job talking about the example of this challenge. If you're in a regulated industry, FINRA compliance is such a good example. This is the kind of capability that you get not just out of OneDrive or out of SharePoint, but in connection across all of Microsoft 365, so that as an administrator, you're having a coherent and consistent experience managing those things across those different pieces. You're not trying to cobble together a bunch of different solutions or figure out, between the different places how to get something that kind of works together. It just works together out of box across all of those places. And I think that's really powerful.
So that's pretty cool. And I love the fact that we get to announce new features on our podcast. So that was great as well. But for our listeners, we spoke about GDPR, we spoke about PCI DSS, SEC, FINRA for finance, HIPAA high-tech for healthcare, and we do have GXP for manufacturing, FedRAM for federal, ISO and SOC globally, and EU model clauses regionally. But they're just to name a few. Please refer to Microsoft Trust Center to learn more about all the certifications that are available, and we'll make sure we add the link in the show notes.
I love the list of these. I think it's so cool, and I really do. I really get excited about the fact that we have solutions across all of these things, because if you're a customer who has this challenge, you've got to meet some compliance or regulatory need. You can we just do it. We've done the hard work. Sesha and team have made it happen. I'm not really sure how to say that in a way that doesn't sound like just kind of patting ourselves on the back. But I love it. I really do.
No, you can say it in a way saying that Sesha's team has done all the great work.
Sesha, I love that your team is, quarterbacking all of this, working so hard to make sure that across the board, across our experiences, across our services, we do this in a coherent and consistent way and really make it that much easier for all the customers we have, and especially those of you who are listening, who are administrating, who need to worry about some of these things. Maybe sometimes it keeps you up at night. Think hard on Sesha's team, who are really making sure that we're able to provide all of those capabilities in a wonderful and rich way.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Well, I do have our one last question for Sesha, and just kind of thanking him. Want to learn a little bit more about you and learn a little bit more about some of the musical tastes. And I thought it might be fun to ask about the first concert you remember ever going to. I'm actually really curious what will pop out for each of you in this. I'll go first. I don't actually remember the very first concerts I went to. I went to concerts for no-name college bands, and I apologize if you became a big-name college band and I don't remember, or if you didn't and it was because I didn't do a good job of remembering. But the first concert I truly remember going to was a Bjork concert outside, and just a beautiful Pacific Northwest sunset, and Bjork and her team, just incredibly exciting and interesting crowd. That was my first real concert memory. How about you, Ankita?
Similar to you, in college times, you attend all these concerts which are of college bands or bands that are upcoming. I don't remember exactly the names of the bands that I had attended at that time, and I'm really sorry about that. But the first concert that was really overwhelming for me was Bon Jovi's concert. I attended in Atlanta, and it was my first year in Microsoft also, so it was a really special year. And it was amazing. It started drizzling. I remember that moment so well. It started drizzling, and yet he was singing, and the whole crowd was going crazy. It was amazing. It was lovely.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I'm a huge fan of Coldplay. So when I did attend their Head Full of Dreams concert, I was speechless. And there is not a time after that that I've listened to a Coldplay song and not relived that moment when I was seeing them sing that song on the stage. It was just out of this world.
That's awesome. Sesha, I want to hear your first concert. What was it like? Who was the band?
For me, I'm a big fan of A.R. Rahman.
Mhm.
Nice.
He is actually a famous, now he won 2 Oscars already. So he's a very famous musician. I love his music. My first concert was in Vancouver, Canada. I went to this concert, and that was totally packed, and I enjoyed every
That's awesome.
moment when I was there. He's well versed in multiple languages, so he sang in almost like 5 different language songs. So I really enjoyed it.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yes, absolutely.
He's an Oscar winner, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 times Oscar winner.
Yeah. So for folks who don't know, we are really proud of A.R. Rahman as Indians because he's an Oscar winner.
Okay, A.R. Rahman, I will have to go and listen. That's pretty cool. Okay, it's time for us to say goodbye. Sesha, it's been wonderful having you on the show, and thank you so much. We talked with Sanjoyan last episode from your team. It's great to have you on the show. If someone's listening to this and they want to know more, they want to know more about you, they want to reach out in some way, what should people do? How can people find and learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very active on the LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile is at linkedin.com/in/Sesha Mani. So you can reach out to me and connect with me there. And also, I'm active in the Twitter as well. My Twitter handle is Sesha Mani S. It ends with an S. And if you want to learn more about what my team is doing, not only now, in the future, and as we are keeping this journey going, you can check out at aka.ms/OneDrive compliance.
Awesome.
And thank you very much for having me here, Jason and Ankita. I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, it's been great having you on. And we'll make sure a full set of those links are in the show notes so everyone is able to reach out and ask you more questions about governance and protection and all the cool stuff that you and your team are responsible for. Thanks for being on Sync Up.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sesha.
Next up, roadmap updates. So don't go away.
It's time to share with the listeners the latest feature releases. We had 2 pretty cool features that released last month. We are expanding the list of supported file types that users can create block download links for. So this update now includes support for PDF files, images, audio, and other non-text and non-video file types. The second feature is that the collaborators can now enforce in a Word document open in review mode where they can make track changes and leave comments, but the owners retain the right to approve or deny these track changes as needed. Open in review mode is only available for Word Online. For more information on all these features, do check out our blog at ak.ms/OneDrive/blog. Over to you, Jason, for the special topic.
Today, we're not going to have a special topic we discuss. And instead, we've decided to use this space to really draw your attention to a few resources shared by Microsoft regarding current events happening in the US and frankly around the world. And I'd like to invite everyone that's listening to check out a blog post recently written by Satya that talks about much about this and the company's approach to it at Microsoft. It's entitled "Change in Ourselves Helps Drive Change in the World." I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. I think this is a pretty good encapsulation at the moment for how we're feeling about this. And I'll invite each of you, as you listen to this, to read through that and think deeply about what kind of role each of us want to play in changing the world. And of course, you can follow @Microsoft on Twitter, where we're using our platform as an opportunity to amplify voices from the Black and African American community here at Microsoft.
Thank you to our guest, Sesha Mani. We encourage you to check out docs.microsoft.com to learn more about security, compliance, and governance with OneDrive. To learn more about OneDrive and the latest developments, please follow our tech community blog at aka.ms/OneDrive/blog.
And please do send us your questions and feedback. You can reach us on Twitter at @OneDrive, @Jasmo, and @Ankita_Kirti21. And definitely visit our show page for links, resources, and more at aka.ms/SyncUp. That's SYNCUP. If you enjoy SyncUp, tell others what you've learned from the show, the amount of fun we have, the insights you learn about our unique personalities and tastes in food, news, music, and also that OneDrive thing. And if you're curious about other cool shows by Microsoft, go to aka.ms/Microsoft/podcasts. There's something for everyone.
Thank you for listening to Sync Up, a show about OneDrive, the Intelligent Files app for Microsoft 365. We are your hosts, Ankita Kirti and Jason Moore. We'll catch up with you next month.
Well, I am planning to say to my hair care expert, let's do something fun since it's grown out a bit, and let's see what happens.